You gotta watch the gain and main level.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, you got it?
Jaya Radha Madhava. Everybody else. Jaya Radha Madhava.
Divine grace of our Charan Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. His compound to try divine grace, Srila Prabhupada. BBT founder, try divine grace, Srila Prabhupada. Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki, Gaur Premanandi. All glory to Samadhavati. All glory to Samadhavati. All glory to Samadhavati. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, and Srila Prabhupada. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita, Volume 6, chapter titled At Home in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada was becoming more and more in favor of departing from the world. When Tamal Krishna remarked that Prabhupada was not drinking much, he replied that he had no inclination. I don't know what to say, Srila Prabhupada said to Tamal Krishna. It is certainly bewildering. I can only expect somehow Krishna will have to do something. Tamal Krishna requested again that they bring a doctor. Still some husband must be there, you said, Tamal Krishna reminded. We should have a doctor's help. I still believe that. After all, we are not doctors. No, said Prabhupada. We are already taking help of doctor, Ayurveda, that is Yogendra Ras. You're just beginning that now, of course, said Tamal Krishna. Tomorrow you might give it up. Then what will be our position? Widow, said Prabhupada with a laugh. Then he added, actually Krishna is the ultimate husband. The devotees with Prabhupada found it very difficult to adopt his mood of looking forward to his passing away. Once during a kirtan, Upendra asked if Prabhupada wanted something to drink. When Prabhupada refused, some of the devotees began to cry, thinking that if Prabhupada didn't eat or even drink, he would not remain with them much longer. The devotees were trying to be submissively resigned to Prabhupada's will, and they accepted that his direction was more and more toward leaving. They were coming to accept it, surrounding him with kirtan and not causing him any inconvenience with their problems or demands. Whatever he wanted, they should want. But the idea of his passing away was still almost unbearable. In their resignation, the devotees became philosophical. Rupanuga said Prabhupada could be likened to an ambassador in a foreign country. He may have many affairs in a foreign country, but finally he's called back. Jayadvaita said that Prabhupada had taught his disciples everything, and that now he was teaching them how to die. Another devotee said that Prabhupada had better friends in the spiritual world. In their talks, the devotees stressed the importance of their cooperating with one another, and they discussed how ISKCON will continue in the future, but it was all depressing. Nevertheless, they kept returning to the unpleasant but unavoidable realization that Prabhupada would very soon leave them, with Prabhupada so clearly indicating that he had decided to definitely leave. The devotees were becoming despondent. At best, a solemn mood prevailed. Then Srila Prabhupada said they should consult Narayan Maharaj, a disciple of Prabhupada's sannyas guru, for details on how to conduct the ceremony for a departed Vaishnava. He also described where his samadhi should be located, and asked that after his departure, a feast be served in all the main temples of Vrindavan, with ISKCON bearing the expense. On one level, everything seemed to go on as usual. The October weather was very pleasant. The Gurukul boys were continuing with their routine, and the deity worship went on as usual. But in front of the temple, workmen began clearing a space for Prabhupada's samadhi. After several days of Prabhupada's not eating or drinking, Tamal Krishna tried again, but gently. You don't want to drink anything today? Let me drink Harinam, Amiya Vilas, said Srila Prabhupada. Jai, Srila Prabhupada, said Harisari. Harinam is the sweetest nectar. Nivrittatar Sherupagiyamana Bhavo Shadat. Prabhupada quoted, this is Bhavo Shada Hari Kirtan. And there's a footnote. Here Srila Prabhupada is quoting a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Chanting the holy name is my only pastime. And then Prabhupada is also referring to a verse in Śrimad Bhāgavatam 10:14. We're hearing about Krishna described as the medicine to cure the material disease of taking birth in the material world again and again and suffering. Jayadvaita completed the verse. Bhavo Sadach Chotra Mano Biramat. Prabhupada acknowledged. And Charanamrita, diet. Diet and medicine, let me depend on these. Although he was fasting, Srila Prabhupada inquired about the prasadam being served to devotees. Now 100 or more extra devotees were at the temple, and more were expected. This time, what did they supply? Asked Prabhupada. What they supply, said Tamal Krishna, you mean prasad? Of course, today is the day of Kirkadasi, so they had some cereal made with gur and some fruit salad made with guavas and bananas. That was all this morning. Lunch is usually substantial, very good. This is the best prasadam that we have had in many years in India. The cook, Ayojapati, is doing very nicely. You want to know what he cooks for lunch? Prabhupada nodded slightly. He cooks an aloo sabji with dal sauce. Tamal Krishna continued, and he makes bindi, very nice spiced, and dal, roti, rice, apple chutney, and dahi raita every day. Prabhupada asked who assisted Ayojapati. He didn't want any hired cooks. Only devotees are cooking, said Tamal Krishna, and it is very tasteful, and everybody, about 125 devotees, sit together and take prasadam. And the guests in the guest house also take. Everyone takes together. Everybody liked? Asked Prabhupada, smiling. Yes, oh yes, was the combined reply of the devotees in the room. They all crowded close around Prabhupada's bed. That's nice of Prabhupada. You are the perfect father, Srila Prabhupada, said one of the devotees. You provide everything for us. A place to live, food to eat, everything, and you've trained us in spiritual knowledge. Prabhupada uttered one of his deep sounds. Then he said, chant all together. And the assembled devotees gladly began a kirtan. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. One way you can check the feed is on the TV out in the lobby. Good. Reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, 3rd Canto, 25th chapter, text 11, chapter titled The Glories of Devotional Service. Tam tva gataham sharanam sharanyam. Tam tva gataham sharanam sharanyam. Svabritya sangsara tarokataram. Svabritya sangsara tarokataram. Jigyasayatang prakrite purushasya. Jigyasayahang prakrite purushasya. Namami saddharma vidang varishtam. Namami saddharma vidang varishtam. Please chant. Tang tva gatahang sharanam sharanyam. Svabritya sangsara taro kutaram. Jigyasayaham prakrite purushasya. Namami saddharma vidang varishtam. Tam tvagatahang sharanam sharanyam. Bhumi, that bag right there, Bhumi. Tam Tvagatahang Sharanam Sharanyam Swabritya Sangsara Tarokataram Jigyasayahang Prakrite Purushasya Namami Saddharma Vidang Parishtam. Ladies. Tang Tvagatahang Sharanang Sharanyang Swabritya Sangsara Tarokataram Jigyasyahang Prakrite Purushasya Namami Saddharma Vidang Parishtam. Tang Tvagatahang Sharanang Sharanyang Swabritya Sangsara Tarokataram Jigyasyahang Prakrite Purushasya Namami Saddharma Vidang Parishtam. Tam, that person, Twa, unto you, Gata, have gone, Ahang, I, Sharanam, shelter, Sharanyam, worth taking shelter of, Svabritya, for your dependence, Sangsara, of material existence, Taro, of the tree, Kutaram, the axe, Jigyasaya, with the desire to know, Aham, I, Prakrite, of matter, woman, Purushasya, of spirit, man, Namami, I offer obeisances, Sat Dharma, of the eternal occupation, Vidam, of the knowers, Varishtam, unto the greatest. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Devahuti continued, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet, because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you. You are the greatest of all transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter. Purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Sankhya philosophy, as is well known, deals with Prakriti and Purusha. Purusha is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or anyone who imitates the Supreme Personality of Godhead as an enjoyer. And Prakriti means nature. In this material world, material nature is being exploited by the Purushas, or the living entities. The intricacies in the material world of the relationship of the Prakriti and the Purusha, or the enjoyed and the enjoyer, is called samsara, or material entanglement. Devahuti wanted to cut the tree of material entanglement, and she found the suitable weapon in Kapila Muni. The tree of material existence is explained in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as an asvatha tree, whose root is upwards and whose branches are downwards. It is recommended there that one has to cut the root of this material existential tree with the axe of detachment. What is the attachment? The attachment involves Prakriti and Purusha. The living entities are trying to lord it over material nature. Since the conditioned soul takes material nature to be the object of his enjoyment, and he takes the position of the enjoyer, he is therefore called Purusha. Devahuti questioned Kapila Muni, for she knew that only he could cut her attachment to this material world. The living entities, in the guises of men and women, are trying to enjoy the material energy. Therefore, in one sense, everyone is Purusha, because Purusha means enjoyer, and Prakriti means enjoyed. In this material world, both the so-called man and so-called woman are imitating the real Purushas. The real Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is actually the enjoyer, in the transcendental sense, whereas all others are prakriti. The living entities are considered prakriti. In Bhagavad Gita, matter is analyzed as apara, or inferior nature, whereas beyond this inferior nature, there is another superior nature, the living entities. Living entities are also prakriti, or enjoyed. But under the spell of Maya, the living entities are falsely trying to take the position of enjoyers. That is the cause of samsara bandha, or conditional life. Devahuti wanted to get out of conditional life and place herself in full surrender. The Lord is Sharanya, which means the only worthy personality to whom one can fully surrender, because he is full of all opulences. If anyone actually wants relief, the best course is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is also described here as Saddharma Vidam Varishtam. This indicates that of all transcendental occupations, the best occupation is eternal loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharma is sometimes translated as religion, but that is not exactly the meaning. Dharma actually means that which one cannot give up, that which is inseparable from oneself. The warmth of fire is inseparable from fire. Therefore, warmth is called the dharma or nature of fire. Similarly, Saddharma means eternal occupation. That eternal occupation is engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The purpose of Kapila Dev's Sankhya philosophy is to propagate pure, uncontaminated devotional service, and therefore he is addressed here as the most important personality amongst those who know the transcendental occupation of the living entity. Om Jnana Tamranda Shagananjana Shalakaya Chakshor Militam Yinatasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankai Tegurum Yatkipatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Translation again. Devahuti continued, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence, and therefore offer my obeisances unto you, who are the greatest of all transcendentalists. And I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman and between spirit and nature. So there's so many ways to view the Purusha and Prakriti. One lecture in Mayapur, Prabhu described that for the woman means to be enjoyed, actually, to be enjoyed by man. But he said that in this age, that sometimes the roles are reversed, as we can see, and reversed in such a way that everything becomes completely confused. Nowadays, people don't know even who they are in the existential sense, what to speak of the actual spiritual sense. So we can understand how important real knowledge is. Dharma projita kaitavocha paramo nirmaracharam satam. So this Bhāgavatam is giving the absolute truth, but it is not for everyone. And Prabhupada understood that sometimes in our efforts to protect ourselves, we tend to have a negative outlook. And people comment on that. Why are you devotees always so negative? You know, pessimistic, they say. But this is, to be otherwise is to live in a fool's paradise. If one actually knows the nature of the material world, there is no enjoyment. It's called mritya-loka, the place of death. So how can there be any real, lasting happiness in the place of death? Right? If you go to a cemetery, you don't go there to enjoy. There's no 7-Eleven. There's no Burger King. You know, there's only a bunch of dead bodies. Right? Cemetery is right. It's a place of death. But literally, the whole world is simply a cemetery. People dying, people waiting to die, and people already dead. You know, so what is the difference? There's 3 stages of death. So, but for the devotee, we have that atak pumbir dvija shrestha vanashama vibhagasaha. Swanusta tasya dharma sya sangsiddhya haritoshanam. That the best occupation is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is actually no other occupation. But in the guise of activity covered by various modes of material nature, the whole world is revolving around, and everyone is adopting some artificial occupation. Right? Someone is thinking I'm a doctor, someone is thinking I'm a lawyer. So there's so many of these occupations. Some of these occupations are completely, they have no real meaning. They only exist because people have no knowledge. Otherwise, how can someone be a psychologist or a psychiatrist? There's no such thing. To understand the mind, to understand the deviations of the mind, this is not a science. But people treat it as such. So therefore, there's businesses that evolve around these types of artificial occupations. But this is, again, so the devotees therefore tend to have this so-called pessimistic outlook because there's no solution. But people are trying so hard to come up with some temporary solution. And it is futile. We see that. Only knowledge can bring about a change. When one has an understanding, just like if you understand that fire is hot, right? Then that knowledge will prevent you from making any unnecessary experiments. That let me stick my finger in here and see if it will burn. Of course it will burn. But someone may be thinking that, no, it won't happen to me. All right? This is the way the mind works. There's no delineation between the deviation and the intelligence. All right? Prabhupada described that the mind, as you walk up to the edge of a cliff, the mind says jump, and the intelligence says no. It's a fairly clear understanding of the situation. Everyone has experienced these things. The mind tempts you to do something which is completely untenable, and only if you have sufficient intelligence. Tesham satadiyuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upuyanti te. And that intelligence can only come through devotional service. The one who is constantly devoted and worships me with love. I give the intelligence. Otherwise, there's little bits of intelligence here and there. Like the fire, you understand. You teach a child, don't touch the fire. Don't play with electricity. Don't do this, don't do that. So many negative things. So, of course, sometimes we're negative because we understand that. You have to see things in their actual position. There is no, someone wants to say, oh no, intoxication is okay. Well, this intoxication is okay. Alcohol is bad. No, but shrooms are good, or weed is good. We understand intoxication is all bad. But they have some relative intelligence. And so therefore they see everything according to their own sense enjoyment. This is samsara. You might as well tell them, here, take these handcuffs and put them on your wrists and stay like that, because that's what you're doing essentially. You're just binding yourself. Right? So you can, how do you get out? Like when you're in handcuffs, how do you get out? How do you get out? Somebody else has to come and open them. All right? So we're completely bound up. Therefore, samsara dhavanala lila loka. Therefore, that we understand that only the spiritual master, someone who is free from this bondage of illusion, can liberate, can give you the information that go this way, go on this path, and you will get to your destination. Right? It's a common joke, especially in a place like Brooklyn or New York, that if a person asks you for directions, you always give them the wrong direction. You never give them the right direction. Okay? You just tell them, where do you want to go? Oh, yeah, you just go down here 3 blocks, make a left, cross the street. That's what people do. That's what we did when we were kids. Never give anybody a straight answer. Right? So this is the material world. There are no straight answers. You can't ask anybody for any information other than some superficiality. So one has to, tad-vidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevya. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire submissively and render service unto him. Self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. He has seen the truth. Tattvadashi. Spiritual master is Tattvadashi. And we can act as his representatives. Therefore, we don't give anyone misdirection. We always give them exactly what they need to know. Whether they accept it or not, that's up to them. If you give that person the real direction, he says, well, I don't think I'm going to follow your direction. Okay, what can I do? You can wander around aimlessly around Brooklyn. That's okay. But the devotee is ultimately the most compassionate person. And so we go out of our way to give the people the direct answer. All right? So, in the Bhagavad Gita, in that purport, 10th chapter, 4th and 5th verse, Prabhupada says, intelligence means to understand things in the proper perspective. And then he describes truth as giving someone exactly the facts without any sugarcoating. Sometimes someone in other places, Prabhupada may occasionally say that, you should try to sugarcoat the truth. But he gives his definitive purport in his law books for 10,000 years, like Rameshwar Prabhu said. For 10,000 years. He says the truth means that you call a thief. Why? So that everyone is informed and that no one else is cheated. But therefore, sometimes we're accused of speaking too harshly, that this person is a bogus yogi. But what is the harm there? To tell the person the truth. Just sometimes under the circumstances you may not tell a person, because they're not capable of understanding. So don't waste your truth on someone who can't understand and create some confusion. All right? But if it's necessary, like they said, don't go that direction. There's danger there. So you're obliged to tell that person, whether or not he accepts you or not, whether he ridicules you or not, whether all his friends ridicule you, you still have the obligation to try to save that person. But it is not always popular. And so this is something that the devotees accept as their burden to bear, that what we do sometimes out in the street agitates people, right? Like yesterday at Columbus Circle, all these pedicab drivers tried to block the Harinam party. Tried to block the Harinam party. And what are these pedicab drivers? They're hustlers. They're trying to make $1. That's okay. But their fault was that they tried to interfere with Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Right? And of course, they will not get the desired result. They may get some money, but they'll also get the condemnation of Lord Nityananda. They won't be happy. They'll get just the opposite of what they thought. Just the opposite. But of course, they don't know. And if you tried to tell them, my dear sir, you don't want to do this. I can't even begin to explain to you how much karma you're going to suffer. And they have their own philosophy, their own religion, so they don't really care. And their religion, what is their religion? Make money. Charvakya Muni. By hook or crook. Right? By hook or crook. What is Charvakya Muni's famous saying, Bhaktarana? Do you know? Beg, borrow, or steal, but whatever you do, get ghee. Beg, borrow, or steal, but whatever you do, get ghee. Because he was saying that, for the benefit so that people could understand that this is the impetus. Everyone wants the highest taste in India, of course, is ghee. But nowadays, no one knows what ghee is. Ghee is, now one guest brought a can, and right on the label, completely, the big letters, it says ghee. But then you look at the label and you look at it, and you get down to the fine writing, and it says vegetable ghee. So they're saying ghee, because ghee can be, it means clarified. It means clarified butter. But they're interpreting to mean any clarified oil. It's just totally bogus. And this is a brand name. So this person was thinking, I'm bringing this ghee to the temple. That's that ghee. And then another can from another brand. You look at it. And what does it say? And it also says pure Deshi ghee. Everyone who's in India knows what Deshi ghee means. Deshi ghee means buffalo. And buffalo is not, and why is buffalo milk not, if you're sick, people say you take it, makes you strong, this and that. But buffaloes have no sweat glands. So all the impurities go into their milk. So so it's unfit for their lordships. You may take it for the taste or for whatever, but it's never to be used in puja or any offering whatsoever. So you have to look at these things. But right in the can it says ghee. And people are fooled. Deshi ghee. People think, oh, Deshi, it's from my country. Must be good. Must be good. So there's so many people who are bending the truth, misleading in general. So it's the same way. You think you find something close to the truth, but unless you really look carefully, unless you have some reference, it's very easy for people to cheat, right? How many bogus philosophies are there? It's amazing. There's one philosophy. We got an email, and these people they made up a bogus country, and they called it something Stan, because Stan means place, like Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan. So they made some Khalistan. Khalistan was the proposed Sikh independent country, which never panned out. But then there was some, and they were sending out, and they got invited to the UN, and these people were speaking, and then somebody said, "There's no such country like that. You guys are all punked." So this, and it went on for some time, and occasionally I still get these emails coming. Says, we'd like you to come and join our little, and they were printing currency. And they were getting some, government subsidies. It was crazy. Totally bogus. They must have been watching Borat or something. Right? So this is the type of situation. These things happen all the time. Because cheaters and the cheated. So the devotees, how are they different? Because Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojana Janayat Dasubhairagam Jnanam Chayarahoitakam. Because by practicing this simple method of chanting the holy names and just following in the footsteps of these great souls, Mahajano Yenigata Supanta, without any extra endeavor, automatically one is getting knowledge and renunciation, vairagya, vidya, nija bhakti yogi. Automatically, he doesn't have to do anything else. Rising early. Of course, sometimes we don't like it. We have to go around with the gong, But what are we doing? We're helping you to get this vairagya, vidya, nija, bhakti yoga. We're not doing this because we like to see your sleepy face at Mangalartik. No. We're doing this for you. This is the school. This is the Gurukul of the master, of the teacher, of Srila Prabhupada. And if you follow along in this routine manner, you get this Vaidhi Bhakti initially, by rules and regulations. But this is just the beginning. All this cleansing is taking place without any extra endeavor. Everything you do, every broom you sweep, every mop you mop, right? Didn't they make a song like that, wasn't there? Yeah. So you can just consider everything you do, it gets you unlimited benefit. You cannot get this anywhere else. You can't pretend it's out there. You can't say, well, I'm going to consider Skimmerhorn Street a temple, and I'm just going to live next door with this guy over here with his cardboard box and sleeping bags. No, you can't pretend. Okay, but he actually might get some benefit if he's cleaning that place. Agyata Sukriti. But in general, you can't concoct something and just say, this cardboard box is a temple. No. and therefore I'm going to get the benefit of cleaning the temple. No. So somehow or other, by great fortune, we've come into the association of the devotees, the pure devotee, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is real shelter. This is what Kunti Devi is seeking, not Kunti Devi, Devahuti. This is what she's seeking. And she's finding it. You know, in an unlikely place, technically, from her son. Usually, one does not, the son is usually the one who performs the ritualistic ceremonies at the time of death, the Shrad. You know, for the parents, he'll go to, Gaya or, various other Hari Kapuri, and he'll make his oblations there in order to relieve the forefathers from many of remnants of sinful reactions that may be there, so that they can get elevation to the heavenly planets and get a chance to take birth again in the material world under some pious circumstances. So this is the son's duty. But here we see what is the duty, what is the real duty of a real son who's enlightened. It's like we've all had the experience of trying to enlighten our parents. It doesn't usually go well. I remember one devotee's father came here. We had a 2-hour session down in the Lotus Room. It was torturous. It was torturous because there was no hope. Sometimes you find these situations like that where a person is so closed-minded, but it's not even so closed-minded. They call us fanatics. But when you see someone who is holding on to something which he has actual no realization of, but it brought him some relief. So therefore, he clings to that because, of course, he's afraid to lose what he had. They're using religion as a crutch, and sometimes they accuse us of that. But when you actually see it in that way, when you see someone else using it, you realize, there's nothing to do. It's where, if anything, our relationship with Krishna as a servant has nothing to do with him helping us in some physical disability. No. But yet at the same time, somehow or other, we have many opportunities to think these things through. And the best place to do such things is in the temple, in the association of devotees. Because I may have some difficulty in understanding or following or conceiving, but there is always someone else who is in our association if we acknowledge it. And sometimes we may think that, no, I can do this on my own, right? But that can have some very disastrous consequences. Because if you don't believe that anyone else can have the same experiences as you or be in the same dilemma as you, then you haven't thoroughly examined the nature of the material world where everyone is bewildered by the same things. And the different levels of realization that we all experience are meant to help ourselves and help others. And so what do they say? Charity begins at home. We don't let God brothers and God sisters sleep through Mangalarti or Guru Puja or Śrimad Bhāgavatam class. We encourage them. We don't just say, they don't want to come. No, we encourage them. Doesn't matter if they're a little bit upset. Our duty is to help them. Just like someone's in a hospital and he doesn't want to take the medicine. Everybody know what an orderly is? Everybody heard the term orderly? Orderly in the hospitals are those, usually men, not women, are those guys who come if the nurse calls for assistance in restraining a patient in order to administer some meds or do something else, And they're usually a couple of big bruiser type guys, come in, they'll pin you down, and then the nurse is going to either inject you or, shove a pill down your throat. So this is Now, we're not going to those extremes, but at the same time, the concept of making sure that everybody takes their medicine is there, gently or otherwise. Prabhupada could be very stern at times. We've related in the past before how Prabhupada, was not shy to tell a person that he should probably leave the association of devotees. If, he didn't like to do it, he didn't want to do it, but he understood that at this time, this person's position is so contagious that he cannot be an associate devotee. I saw him do it to one of his favorite disciples. So this is impartiality based on absolute knowledge. It's not sentimentalism. And he always prayed for this person to come back, and he did. But then he again left due to nonsense. So the spiritual master is very merciful. One time we heard Prabhupada say, once, twice, thrice, even 4 times, but 5th time not. That's how merciful Prabhupada was. Once, twice, thrice, even 4 times, but 5th time not. And obviously you don't need to keep a scorecard. You're not checking off the box that, okay, I'm going to fall down 4 times and take my chances. No, it doesn't work like that. Prabhupada was giving an analogy just to how merciful the spiritual master. And anyone who's honest can understand that. How merciful the spiritual master is in our circumstances. But he allows us because if we maintain this Trinadupi Sunichena, this level of humility which allows us to understand that fallen nature, and to vow not to repeatedly commit these mistakes. I mean, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a definition. He gives many definitions and of course Prabhupada has related these to us in his own words. But that 2 types of fall down. One is due to weakness of heart. Okay, weakness of heart, due to habit, due to conditioning, one falls down to whatever of the 4 regulative principles we want to consider under the circumstances. All right? So that from that, a devotee can recover by simply saying, from this day forward, I will never do anything like that again. He accepts, I was at fault. My weakness got the best of me. But he won't do it again. So therefore, Krishna, this is the verse, Api Chet Sudaracharo. Prabhupada relates that in the purport. Not that you can depend on this, verse in the Bhagavad Gita to cover for all your nonsense activities, no. And then the other, Prabhupada defined aparad, means that one repeatedly commits these offenses. And he thinks, no, I am right, and everyone else is wrong. Right? Right? They just don't understand. They haven't risen to that platform. And we see that in the Sahajism and things like that. That people will justify their nonsense. Right? And it creates a whole following, of people who do such things. They're aparadis. And there's, Bhaktivinoda Thakur further explains that these 2 types of persons, they can have divisions. And one is Kali Chela, and the other is Dharma Dwaji. So Kali Chela means person who looks just like devotees, wears tila, kuntimala. But his business is to create some disturbance, division in the ranks by giving false testimony, right? The Christians call it false testimony. Right? Trying to use the scripture to justify some nonsense. All right? And then there's the Dharma Dwaji. The Dharma Dwaji means one who waves the flag or wears the flag. Sometimes people who are so-called ultra-patriotic, they wear some pin to broadcast their patriotism. But that pin is nothing. If it's not in your heart, then putting on your lapel is nothing. It's just a... So Dharma Dwaja, you're just a show. Also looks like a devotee. Also pretends to be a devotee. But he's really just only superficially. You know, and any little disturbance and he's gone. Any real challenge. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving his... And who is he speaking to? He's not speaking, he's not telling the general public about Kali Chela, Dharma Dwaji, or operatis and weakness of heart. This is meant for the devotees. This is meant for our understanding, so that we can exercise discrimination, and also to avoid any attempt to try to utilize the devotional service as some vehicle for one's own profit, distinction, adoration. Right? One has to be very careful. There's no need to adopt any, how can you say, additional accoutrements. Like say looks like Prabhupada always ridiculed BA, MA, PhD. So these things are not necessary. They're not necessary materially, and they're not just necessary spiritually. Right? One does these things, one can pursue things like Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta, in order to gauge his command of philosophy for preaching purposes, not to add to his name on a visiting card to impress people. This is useless. Better to have a pure and simple understanding of the philosophy in order to maintain one's own sadhana than to pose oneself as some big scholar or whatever. Because ultimately life is short. And the goal of life, again, is Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. And we already know from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Nectar Devotion, from all of our acharyas, Anyabhilasata sunyam jnana karma dinarvatam anukulyena krishnana shilana bhakti uttama. That this is the definition. It doesn't say anything about acquiring various titles or positions or whatever, accolades. Unless I missed something. Did I miss something in that verse? Did it say anything in there about that? It says, unmotivated, unalloyed, and uninterrupted. Okay. So those are the three things that should be after your name, if anything. That das, anudas. That's what that means. That's the das, and the anudas. Unalloyed, unmotivated, and uninterrupted. And so if one can just keep that in mind, then his path is clear. He doesn't have to fiddle with the GPS. It's there. The route is clear. Sometimes people want to take an alternate route. When you're driving, it pops up. Here's a shorter route. Save you 6 minutes. It also pops up and tells you, hey, because they have advertisements, unless you're a premium member on Waze or something like that. It pops up and says, hey, look, here's a 7-Eleven. You should go there. Or here's this place or that place or that place. It's trying to get you. See, everywhere is Maya. It just pops up and tells you, go here, go there. It's trying to get you off your route on a detour to go visit these places. This will only take you 6 minutes. So everywhere, all these things are happening all around you. Beware of these detours and people trying to divert you like that. Okay? And how do you do that? By developing these fast friendships. Doesn't work any other way. If you are not willing to reveal, what does it say? Reveal one's mind, to listen. What's the exact term? Yeah, well, we know there's 6 exchanges. But they're there. One has to reveal his mind. He has to find someone he can trust. And the only place you can really do that is in devotional service. But you have to look carefully. You have to establish a relationship. They're gold. If one is lucky, not lucky, we're selective. You see someone who is engaged, who seems to have a very clear understanding of his position in relationship to the spiritual master and Krishna, and who engages accordingly. Then we want such person. Prabhupada says, Tava Britya, once you become apprentice. Well, of course, that means to the spiritual master. So first thing is to the spiritual master. Should become an apprentice. In this way, he learns how to serve 24 hours a day. Right? I sent that lecture from Mayapur around to Hadai Pram when he asked me. And I'm sure Hadai will reveal the content when he gets a chance. But basically, that's it. And Prabhupada gave the instruction that the devotees, that the GBC should take care that the temple doesn't become a place where you're simply eating and sleeping. So then the whole mission is ruined. The whole mission is ruined. So we're here to serve Krishna. We're here to enjoy and foster these relationships with the devotees. Tadati pratigrinati goyamakyati prishati bhunti bochayate chaiva. So we should take it very seriously and don't try to, unnecessarily burden the mind with future situations. Unless it's in 5 years, I want to be completely surrendered to the Lord in every single way. So that plan, not that I want to be the temple commander, the temple president, the GBC, the guru. There are so many things that Krishna will give you in order to satisfy you spiritually and, if you want, materially. But you shouldn't try to prompt these things artificially. Prabhupada said, just try to act in such a way that Krishna sees you. Just try to act in such a way that Krishna sees you. And how is that act? That's that anyabhilasata sunyam. That's how we act. With as much sincerity as we can command. Right? Prabhupada ended his Vyas Puja homage to his spiritual master. What did he say? With all humility at my command. So this is something, if we can do that, we're making advancement in spiritual life. If when my false ego doesn't want to be corrected or any of these things, but somehow or other I'm able to direct the mind to accept the situation and profit from it, then I have made advancement. So, any questions or comments? I don't know. Bhakta Chris had his hand up, and of course Bhakta Ryan has his hand up. So, should we flip a coin? Because they went up at the same time. Should we let Bhakta Ryan go first, Bhakta Chris? See that? Humility at his command, see? You passed the test. You could just yell it, just, Bhakta Ryan, go. Is it working? Is it on? You have to turn that on, because I shut it off in the morning. There it is. Go ahead.
So they say that the association of devotees.
A little louder.
The association of devotees living in the temple is actually like this is Vrindavan, this is the Vrindavan.
How do we what?
This is the Dham, this is the Vaikuntha.
Yes.
Right. And we're mentioning this right. Is working? No. Hari.
Yeah, it's working somewhat.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So what? Maybe you could go more into detail, because the Dharma Dwajis, maybe there are some of them, but and the people.
Yeah,
who
you still got to say it loud, because I can't hear. Everybody else can hear, but I can't hear. No, it's not from that. It's just that the room as
Better?
graduate tomorrow.
There you go. That's better. The question is basically, what are the subtle things that we are doing that harden the heart and prevent us from seeing the association of devotees and seeing even the temple environment as Vaikuntha? Like, what are the more subtle things that we're doing that we can not do that are preventing us from having that vision?
Now say it for me to hear. Everybody else heard it. Now say it for me. Not in the mic.
Yeah, the subtle things we can do is realize how this is powerful, and have that kind of association with each other, and have that kind of association with beings, instead of being hard-hearted mentality. What are the subtle things that we do in this context?
The opportunity to associate with devotees is the medicine, just like Prabhu was saying that the holy name is the medicine. So what does that mean? In order to have the effect of the medicine, you have to accept it. So if the mind is always fighting against accepting my situation for whatever reason, that I don't like this environment, I don't like these devotees, I don't like this, I don't like that, then how can, there's no room for the realization that this environment is like a hospital, is meant for my ultimate well-being, to become cured. So we don't necessarily put a time limit on it that I'll be here for. Sometimes the mind does do that. It says, let me stay here and learn as much as I can, and then I'll go off to the Himalayas and I'll live in a cave. Right? That I've seen that happen to devotees. They want to take Babaji and they don't want to deal with devotees because, I too much, it may appear to be some, whatever, whenever there's a group of people, there's some personality conflicts, right? So unraveling these personality conflicts is part of our endeavor to conquer, these mental contaminations from time immemorial that have conditioned us, to not see Vidya Vinaya Sampanya, the spirit soul in every person's heart. That's why the definition of Uttamadhikari is that he sees no distinction. He sees everyone on the same spiritual platform, more advanced than himself. That somehow or other, he's the only one who's really fallen. And of course, in that position, one cannot preach. Because, if you're thinking everyone else is already, has the super soul there and they're delivered, then, so you have to come to that Majjhima platform where you can see who is the devotee, who is the innocent, who is the ignorant, who is the demoniac. And you preach according to that. And this is what we're being, not necessarily trained, but somehow by the clearing process, Tadarajas, Tamo Bhavo, Kama Lobha, when you are able to see the distinction, these modes of nature, then you can automatically appreciate how they affect different people differently. And so therefore, it's not that we're trying to put people in categories, but we're just simply responding to their situation. So, but we don't do that to devotees. We don't try to analyze, this person is advanced, this person is not advanced. Our position is that I'm not advanced, and therefore I should always be in attempting to serve. And whatever I do, it should be in the mood of service. Whatever it is, whether I'm cooking, whether I'm doing my puja, whether I'm, distributing books, doing Harinam, constructing the temple, my mood is what? I'm a servant. And so once that identity is fixed, then I'm a servant of Krishna eternally, then everything else begins to fall into place. Because if I'm a servant, then why would I want to impose myself on someone else for whatever reason? Try to exercise my so-called independence to exert some particular influence. No. I just do my service. If my service is a temple commander, sometimes you have to, say, Prabhu, you missed your service. Now you have to make it up. Obviously, there's going to be some resistance, but that's your duty, is to try, because you're doing this for Krishna. And if that person was, for whatever reason, forgetful, lax, then it's our service to remind them. And it's their service to accept it humbly. Not to be, you should have told me yesterday. No, the schedule's there. Look at the schedule. And if you have a question, means you don't have an answer. So go find the answer. That was one of my friend's famous lines when we were in charge of the Bhakti program on 55th Street. And people would come in and they were argumentative. So many back in the 80s, argumentative. And he would immediately silence them. He would say, if you have a question, it means you don't have an answer. So would you like to hear my answer? Would you like to hear the answer in the Bhagavad Gita? No, you're asking. And if you have the answer, you can tell me. But, so he was very good at trying to get a person to the point where they would listen, submissively or otherwise. But this is, for us, at least, we should always consider that whatever I'm doing, it doesn't matter if I'm GBC, guru, this, that, the other. Ultimately, I'm a servant because I'm a servant of my spiritual master. He is a servant of his spiritual master, and we've said this, and Prabhupada said this. Therefore, we are parampara servants. So our whole identity is servant. That's why we have the name Das. Our names are followed by Das. I am not, this person or that person. I am Das. I am not the incarnation of Godhead. I am his servant. So we just have to try to appreciate that. And if you have any other questions, you got to come up. We have great acoustics, but for speech, it makes it unintelligible from this position. Gonna have to go. Dr. Krish, you had a question. Come up. Don't use the mic. Just come. Just.
So thanks for that. We talk about things not what they seem to be, right? So there's another religion that looks just like ours, Bhakti Marga. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Sure.
What do you think about?
They wear a different tilak, though. They wear a different tilak.
They wear different tilak. Some might know that they are the leaders fighting with scandals and things like this. And what do you think about the karma of those disciples?
Well, ultimately, their misconception of bhakti is that it has something to do with sensual enjoyment. And real bhakti means to please Rishikesha Rishikenam Sevanam Bhakti Uchate. We understand this. We're very fortunate to have this philosophy. Now, if you tried to tell that to them, they would say, no, I don't accept that. I accept that I'm following this path of bhakti, and that it should bring me ultimate enjoyment, not Krishna. And that, I can accept that in the course of executing this so-called bhakti marg, that there's activities which resemble, but because they're not being done out of knowledge, therefore they're not getting the benefit, and that we can see that it's just another. Like they have a big movement in China called Falun Gong, and it's a whole mix of meditation and yoga and tai chi and everything. It's just a masala mix of all these different things. You pick this philosophy, and you try to merge them. And when I was in China in 2009, we had a program, and somebody brought a book, and I looked at this book, and the book was basically the cover of the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, first canto. So they'd even gone so far as to completely take certain aspects of Krishna consciousness and wrap it around, and it's all it's amazing. To what extent that these people will go to in order to sell their own. And the most famous person who did that was L. Ron Hubbard. Everybody know L. Ron Hubbard? He the founder of Scientology. So he was in combat in World War II, and he had this epiphany. And what was that epiphany? He said, if anyone wants to get rich, he should make a religion. That's what he said. And he did it. He did it. He also wrote science fiction books, and that was part of his thing. The famous science fiction writer, L. Ron Hubbard. But that's what he said. If anyone wants to get rich, he should make a religion. That's a totally concocted religion. He made it up. And yet there are thousands of followers. Right? Famous followers. Of course, many are no longer following. They've all quit. Now there's exposés. But there's exposés in every religion. You know. Yes, Bhakti Chris.
That leader, Mark also claims to be an incarnation of Krishna.
Really?
Yes.
Which one? Which incarnation?
I'm not sure. Too much.
He's the Pondraka avatar. Have you ever read Krishna book? In Krishna book, there was one king. His name was Pondraka. And so he claimed to be Krishna, and he would ride around in his chariot with these 2 artificial arms that would just move up and down. Pretty funny, huh? Okay, anyway, we don't want to go too much over the class. We can always talk. We're here. We're not going anyplace. You know, there's nothing, Tushanti cha ramanti cha. There's nothing like the association of devotees. Don't lose it. Srila Prabhupada ki, Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki, Sri Sri Radha Govinda Dev ki. Second, twice.